Welcome! Hey. So excited that you guys decided to do summer math with me to get ready for pre-cal next year. I taught pre-cal a really long time, and I also teach calculus, so I know where the math is headed, and my goal is to get you guys like so confident that you're excited about math next year, and that you can use this resource throughout the year and to help you if times get tough or you don't like the way that a particular teacher is explaining something. You will have this as a backup. Week 1 is not too exhilarating, I'm not going to lie. It's really just a few concepts from the Algebra 2 that are important enough that I'm like, we've got to mention these again because these are skills that you need to know because they won't be taught again in class, okay? So without further ado, let's start solving linear equations. This is just important for life always. The idea here, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but the idea here is that if you have something like ridiculous, like maybe it's like negative 3 times x plus 2 minus 5 times x plus 1 equals 2x plus 11. Okay, so you've got this big long expression, but it's linear because all the exponents are 1. If it's like this, the goal is of course just to isolate x, so I just wanted to kind of remind you of what to do in this situation. In the first parenthesis you do need to distribute this. Over here we're going to also distribute the negative 5, and then I'm going to leave the other side alone. And then just keep in mind we want to group together, I forgot an x, haha. We want to group together the x's on one side and then the numbers on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and put these two x's together, and I'm going to go ahead and put these two numbers together just to clean it up a little bit. And then I'll swing this to the other side, so I need to minus 2x minus 2x, and then I'm going to add the 11 to the other side. Okay, so this should not be rocket science here. This should be a problem you're pretty dang familiar with, and even like the reducing part, like that should be okay. I just want you to know it's going to come up a lot, so yeah, you still need to be able to do this type of algebra. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and actually skip this next section for a minute, and I'm going to have you guys take a look at factoring to solve quadratics, because we just solved a linear equation, but let's talk about solving a quadratic, because that's of course the next most complicated parent function. What I mean by this is, you know, you may see like it could be anything from you just saw a trinomial that you have to solve to maybe it's not a trinomial, maybe it's something like this, like x squared minus 25 equals 0. I would say just go ahead and factor if you remember how to factor. If this was a number that didn't factor, you could always swing it over to the other side and then take the square root of both sides. That's another option. But I'm a big factor person. Like, it's just so easy if you can do it. And then you'll know that your answers are 5 and negative 5. Of course, sometimes it won't be that cut and dry. You know, maybe it'll be like tricky. Like it'll be, 3 equals, and then maybe it'll say, something like that, okay? Now, a lot of times I'll get students that they'll take this problem and they'll try to factor out an x, and then they'll have something weird like this. And I'll be like, okay, so I set x to 3 and I set this to 3. The answer is no, please don't do that. What you need to do is if you want to factor and look at your parentheses and stuff, this has to be a 0. Please remember that's got to be a 0. So you can make it a 0 by moving the 3 to the other side. And then once you do that, now of course you can factor like you've always learned. Now, some teachers teach all kinds of different factoring. I am just a big guess and check person, you know. The only thing that can make an x is an x and an x. And then I go through all my combos of two numbers that multiply to make the last number, but add together to make the middle number, right? So for a negative 3, is that even going to work? It's not going to work. Okay, This was a negative in the beginning. Did I mention that? Ha ha ha. Go make that a negative, and let's swing that around the back side, and it is now a positive. Okay, now this will work. 3 times 1 is 3, and then 3 plus 1 is the 4. So, sorry about that. Don't you wish you could change problems while you were in class when they didn't work out? I bet you did. Sorry about that. I wasn't thinking it through. But that's factoring to solve a quadratic. You do need to follow through with my x's are -3 and -1. But other than that, I mean, hopefully we remember some factoring, so you'll have some practice with that this week. Now let's come back up to the exponents and radicals section. Okay, and let's change the pen color just because I'm bored of blue. Alright, exponents and radicals. There is a rule from Algebra 2 that I don't think y'all spent a whole lot of time on, so I'm just going to write out this definition, and then we'll talk about how to use it, okay? There we go. Alright, this is how you can go from radical world to exponent world, or vice versa, okay? This is actually a really nice, important thing to know, because if I give you a number, like, here's an example, I don't know, maybe I'm like 16 to the 3/2 power. Well, a lot of people are like, I don't know what that is, and give me a calculator, right? But what if you don't have a calculator? So you probably don't understand it in this form, but if you change it back to that form, then it's totally doable. And the way that you do that is the denominator is now your root. So this is a square root problem, and the numerator is what power you're going to take it to. So you can just roll through it left to right. The square root of 16 is 4, and then 4 cubed is 64, and then you'll have your answer. It's a lot easier to think about it that way. So you're just going to have to practice going, you know, back and forth. Do these get tricky? You may be wondering, are they going to be tricky? Well, the only tricky ones, in my opinion, are like if you've got something funky that's in the denominator, like maybe 2x to the 5th. Okay, so if you have this and you are asked to put it into exponential form, you've got to remember that if there's something in the denominator, that it just has a negative exponent. So if it's in the denominator, negative exponent. That's a good rule to remember from Algebra 2. So in other words, when I go to take this 2x and write it, instead of writing it just to the 5/3 power, because we're just using this rule over here, okay, instead of going to the 5/3, I need to keep in mind that since it was in the denominator, that's actually a negative 5/3, okay? Awesome. Now remember, guys, as we're going, I sometimes go fast, and if something is weird or tricky, please pause and write it down, or please rewind if you might need like a refresher on it, okay? And watch it as many times as you need to feel comfortable with it, because I do go fast just in case this is really easy for you, okay? Because I'm not sure what you're good at yet. Okay, solving equations involving radicals. Nobody likes this, not even me. And I'm, you know, I love math, right? But this is just, this is not thrilling. Okay, so this is something maybe that's like x plus 5, and it's under a square root, and then you've got like the square root of like 2x minus 1. Okay. These, if they start out like this, then the idea is to square both sides so that you can get rid of your radical, because remember, the opposite of a square root is squaring. So if you square both sides, then you've been even to both sides, and it's really nice because that's just going to come out like that, and then it's a linear equation like we did above. So you could just swing the x over here, and then I can swing the number over there. The only thing that I'm going to caution you is that on a problem like this, when you get an answer, like I just got x is 6, please go back and plug it into the original and make sure that it makes sense. This is an 11 and this is an 11, and all is right with the world. If one of these had been negative, we are in trouble, because you can't have a negative under a square root and it would be like imaginary. So just check your answers for eyes. check for imaginary. And if that happens to you, then you're just going to write no solution or something, or cross off that solution. Okay. What is another one of these? Okay, what if they don't both have a square root? Like one of them is like 3x plus 2, and then the other one's like a 4. Okay, so if that happens, you do the same thing, and I'm just going to call it actually like, let me do 4 minus x to make it a little more interesting. If this were to happen to you, you still start by squaring both sides, okay? You still start the same. This side just cancels and it's all friendly. This side, though, remember, you do have to actually like FOIL this out. So it's going to be this whole thing. So 16 minus 8x plus x squared. And then from here, I'm actually not going to finish this, but the goal would be to make this side a 0 and, you know, move those to the other side and try to factor it. Now, will it factor? I don't know. I said I wasn't going to finish it, but now I'm just kind of curious. So this is x squared minus 11x. And then minus 2 plus 14. Okay, so if it factors, you know, what times what is 14? Well, 7 and 2, but 7 and 2 don't make 11. What about 14 and 1 don't make 11? So in a problem like this, if factoring doesn't work, you might have to do the dreaded quadratic formula, minus b plus or minus. Okay. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alright, so you may have to do that. This is sort of my last resort, right? Please try to factor first, and then if it doesn't, you can always use the quadratic formula to get yourself out of a sticky situation. I am not going to finish this because at this point it's going to be an ugly answer, and I kind of just don't care. But that's the truth. So this is a good preview of the pre-cal that you're going to start the year off with. It's just going to be some review stuff thrown in, but like I said, your teacher won't reteach it. They're going to assume that when they give you any one of these problems that you just saw, okay, any of these problems, that you know what to do as soon as you see it. So that's why we're practicing it. So try the practice problems, and after you try as many of those as you can, feel free to watch the solutions video, and then we will talk more about all this in tutorials.